All right, now we're back. All right, Marcus. Catastrophic headphone failure caused me to have to restart everything. Um, yes, the Saudi 19 show. We're gonna just go right back into it. Your wrong one. Your first pick was the Super Showdown 2019. My first pick was the first ever World Wrestling All Stars show. I think it was called the Revolution.
Yes,
The,
yes, yes.
the Inception. Sorry, the Inception. All right, so we're gonna just keep on going because this is gonna take us a while, and we're both tired. So the next one that I'm doing, continuing on with the theme, if you will, of World Wrestling All Stars is the Revolution sequel. This was the only show in the United States that took place in the Addison Casino Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Actually, no, I'm sorry, Paradise, Nevada. A better show. This might be their best show. The opener was a six-way match featuring Nova, which is, of course, Simon Dean, taking on Low-Key, Shark Boy, AJ Styles, Tony Mamaluke, and Christopher Daniels. The match went 20 minutes, and it was pretty good. The next match was the Funkster, which was Kiwi from WCW as a Hulk Hogan ripoff, taking on Reno. Chronic took on the Native Blood, which was the Navajo Warrior and Ghostwalker. Puppet the Midget Killer defeated Tio in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Now that's a low light. Eddie Guerrero defeated Psychosis and Juventud Guerrero for the Cruiserweight title. That's right, Eddie Guerrero was on the show. The former Crowbar, Devin Storm, defeated Sabu in a no DQ match. This match went 20 minutes. Rick Steiner and the Cat defeated the West Hollywood Blondes, Lenny Lane and Lodi, in less than a minute. And then the main event saw Jeff Jarrett defeat Brian Christopher for the World Heavyweight title. If I remember correctly, this was supposed to be Randy Savage. Let me double check this. I'm pretty sure this was supposed to be Randy Savage in the main event. Maybe it was Scott Steiner. It was somebody. No, here we go. Randy Savage was originally scheduled to be Jeff Jarrett's challenger at Revolution, but backed out of the event, and Christopher replaced Savage in the main event on account of his pinfall victories over Jarrett. So there you go. This was a terrible show, but it had a couple good, decent matches. But it was in a theater, so the stage was on like the wrestling ring was on a stage, and it was elevated, so you could see everyone sitting down. It was not good. It was funny as shit. It was not good. Marcus, what's your next pick? Marcus is momentarily unavailable. All right. Well, while we wait for Marcus, I guess I can do the next show. We're going to continue World Wrestling All Stars Eruption event. AJ Styles defeated Nova. This was for the Cruiserweight title semifinal because Eddie Guerrero had left the company to rejoin the WWE at this point. Jerry Lynn shows up. He defeated Chucky Chaos. Tao defeated Puppet the Psycho Dwarf in a hardcore match with a rematch from the last event. Brian Christopher and Ernest Miller defeated Buff Bagwell and Stevie Ray. I think this is one of two times Stevie Ray wrestles on this event. On this company. Alan Funk, the former Funkster, defeated Pierre Olette, the future what the fuck is his name? PCO. AJ Styles defeated Jerry Lynn for the Cruiserweight title. This was a damn good match. Sabu defeated Devin Storm in a steel cage match. This was rough. Medeja shows up and wins a evening gown match. And then the main event, Scott Steiner defeated Nathan Jones to win the World Heavyweight Championship with Sid Vicious as a special guest referee. Nathan Jones had beaten Jeff Jarrett for the title on a tour that was untelevised. And Scott Steiner then wins the belt. Fun factoid, Scott Steiner leaves the company days after winning the title because this was April 13th, 2022, and their next event wouldn't be until December, And, of course, Steiner showed up at Survivor Series in between. Marcus, you got a double shot coming. Give me your next 2 events.
Hey man, WWE doubled down and went double or suck. And stuck up to join again. Followed the year up 2019 with the 2020 Super Showdown show, which like I said, it was better, but that's not saying much. You had the likes of Mansoor versus Dolph Ziggler before he became a Maximum Male Model. Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet, which is I'm bored and I want to do something violent on a video game match. Roman Reigns versus Corbin in the steel cage match. I would like to think Bayley and Naomi did their thing, but ultimately, this was the show where the Fiend's character died a death because they ran into Chad's favorite wall in wrestling, known as Goldberg, in a match that lasted it didn't even go 3. It literally went 2 minutes and 59 seconds. And the Fiend dropped his then Universal Championship to the film football star and real life Atlanta, Georgia Bulldog, I should say, in Goldberg. And after that, the character never really recovered. And history kind of made itself what it was. But yeah, like I said, this was better than 2019, but it still was absolute crap. So yeah.
Goldberg defeating the Fiend is still one of my favorite things in the history of wrestling. I'm not even pretend. I love it.
Of course it.
I love it.
Of course it is. Let's see. My next show is going to be yeah, we're gonna go talk about these veterans, man. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna stay in Saudi because this is the first version of WWE sucking up to those guys over there, and we're gonna kick it back to 2018 and go to Crown Jewel.
Oof.
Yeah, man. I told you we was gonna hit it hard with the suck on this show. Yeah, this had what? 11, 12 matches on the show. Had some good bouts on here. Miz, they had some, WWE World Cup matches. Rollins and Lashley, Mysterio and Orton, Ziggler and Kurt Angle, and that should have been interesting. They even had AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe on this show. And the Kaiju match with Lesnar and Strowman. But they kicked. This one was highlighted by the Legends Tag Team match nobody asked for in a degenerative DX, or should I say geriatric DX, and Triple H in a one-time out of retirement Shawn Michaels, completely bald, versus the brothers of being in need of reconstruction and Undertaker and Kane. This could have honestly been like a, I don't know, pay to see it type show at the home that Martin and Eddie Murphy was at in life. It was not good. It went almost 30 minutes, and that was like 20 some odd minutes too long. So yeah, this was not good. I'm glad those guys could still do what they did at stage they was at their career, but this was embarrassing. You had 4 legends in the ring, and yet again, the legacies were scarred, and so were your eyes if you had to sit through it. So, yeah.
The hairless, balding kid. Nailed it. He thinks he's hairless. He knows he's weird looking. He's got the Rogaine that drives the doctors wild. We're going to Retribution. Two more WWE shows on the docket. First one up, Shark Boy defeating Frankie Kazarian, Conan defeating Nate Webb, Buff and Johnny Swinger defeating Norman Smiley and Malice. I think Malice is the future Wall. Let me double check that. Jerry too. Then we had Tao defeating Puppet. Again, this is the third show in a row where we got Little People Wrestling. No one wanted it. No one asked for it, but we got it. Mike Sanders defeated Joe E. Legend, Jeff Jarrett, with the World Wrestling All-Stars heavyweight title. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is the NWA World Heavyweight title. This is back when TNA first started, so Jarrett was already champion. He defeated Nathan Jones. Then we had Sabu defeating Simon Diamond and Perry Saturn to win a triple threat. And then in the main event for the vacant world title, Lex Luger defeated Sting in the worst match these two have ever had. This was December 6, 2022 in Glasgow, Scotland. And there was a terrible castle structure as the entrance. And I love me some fancy little entrance sets. This was not one of those times, Marcus. This is a rough ass show. This may be the worst of the bunch. But I still recommend them. They're terrible, but I love these shows so much. Marcus, what's your next one?
Let's continue the downfall narrative of The Fiend and take it to Hell in a Cell 2019. This was continuing the downfall of not only like I said, the Fiend character, but the continued bashing and death of the Hell in a Cell concept as they yet again turned a match concept into a full-on pay-per-view. Unnecessary, of course, but when is WWE shied away from things that were unnecessary? I'm sure Natalya versus Lacey Evans was a bomb burner, so much so that it was on the pre-show. Best match of the night likely had to be Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks in the actual Cell match. Dan Bryan, Roman Reigns defeated Eric Rowan, Luke Harper. I'm sure that was decent. Randy Orton versus anybody, let alone Ali, is a foregone conclusion, even if it did almost go 20 minutes. Oh, the Kabuki Warriors were a thing back then. Versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Chad Gable versus Jesus. This guy gets on shows. I fucking hate Corbin. Charlotte defeated Bayley, but yeah, again, this is another one of these unnecessary shows. And like I said, it continued the downfall of the Fiend. Because one of the most idiotic matches we've ever seen was probably just ultimately the worst Hell in a Cell match we've ever seen. One of Seth Rollins versus The Fiend, which ended in a match stoppage.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. A Hell in a Cell ended in a match stoppage.
Oh, Vince, and your terrible booking.
The Chad's no fan of Bray Wyatt, and I don't know how much he delved into the narrative around his Fiend character, but this thing was dead by the end of this show. It was dead.
Death to the Fiend. Speaking of dead, World Wrestling All-Stars would go out of business after their last show, The Reckoning. 6-match card to close out the show, the series, the franchise. Maybe the best per capita event that they put on because there's only 6 matches, and 2 of them were solid. 3 of them, all right. The rest, not so much. Rick Steiner defeated Mark Mercedes to open up the show. Tao defeated Meatball and Puppet for the 4th goddamn fucking show. Devin Storm defeated Conan in a hardcore match. Chris Sabin, the X Division champion of TNA, defeated Jerry Lynn, the international cruiserweight champion of World Wrestling All-Stars, as well as Johnny Swinger and Frankie Kazarian to unify the 2 titles. Sabu defeated Johnny Legend, and in the main event, Jeff Jarrett defeated Sting to unify the NWA and World Wrestling All-Stars World Heavyweight Championships. So there you go. Sting had a decent match. Like this was fine. This card was at worst, blech, and at best fine. But I promise you, it does get worse from here. Marcus, what you got for me?
All right, I got some. I'll raise you some. Not gonna be at best. Is it at best? You hear somebody throwing a soda can at the trash and missing. We're on a Battleground 2017. Yeah, man. I would imagine the best thing on this show had to be the New Day versus the Usos, because they just had countless matches of classics. And this may have been either the start or in the midst of those of that run of great matches. Shinsuke versus this fucker Corbin. It just him being on all these shows alone proves that they suck. But yeah, that was a match. Natalya beat Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Lana, and Tamina for a #1 contendership match. Oh joy! Pretty sure the second best match of the night was Kevin Owens and Styles. As you do, John Cena defeated Rusev in a flag match because we needed something to offset. And either this will come before or after a stairs match. That will either come before or years after this. Sami Zayn beat Mike Kanellis for all that. I'm pretty sure that was worse. But now, again, these shows are offset by the main events, which really make you throw the whole pay-per-view away. The legendary future Hall of Famer Jinder Mahal with the Singh brothers defeated the Apex Predator in all of his glory in a Punjabi prison match.
Ooh.
You know the only thing that's better than the Elimination Chamber is a which I actually appreciate. Is a Punjabi prison, which I'm pretty sure if you listen close enough in the background, you can hear Batista yelling explicatives about.
The ironic thing is, it's the fans that are actually imprisoned by that match. It's our personal Shawshank.
Yeah. This was not a good show. Not a good show. This is another one. I don't even think they do Battlegrounds anymore.
Nope.
Another experimental thing. Yet another throwaway show that ultimately meant nothing, and this continues in a long line of suck. That was a stretch of a 10-year period. Yeah.
I think you're being generous by only saying 10. So I'm going to start a run on WCW shows now. First one up is Sold Out 2000. Spoiler, the next 2 months after this are also on this list. This was a very unique time because this was right after Vince Russo was fired the first time from the company. And Kevin Sullivan started booking things. And there was promise. But Benoit was already so paranoid and schizophrenic and whatever he was that he literally thought that Kevin Sullivan was going to try to ruin his career, despite the fact that he was building the company around him. This man was not in a good frame of mind. But here's the other big issue. Billy Kidman was supposed to face off with Jeff Jarrett, if I remember correctly, in a 3 stages or triple threat theater match. Let me double check that. Triple threat theater. Okay. Jarrett was scheduled. Oh, okay. So Jarrett was scheduled to wrestle Chris Benoit in the triple threat theater for the U.S. title, but due to issues with Bret Hart, he couldn't compete. So they bumped Benoit to the main event, and then Jarrett couldn't wrestle. So they gave Billy Kidman the spot against the Revolution. So Billy Kidman versus Dean Malenko opened up the first match. It ends in 2 minutes and 36 seconds because it's a catch-as-catch-can match, which means that you can't go to the ringside floor. You have to stay in the ring for the entire match. So 3 minutes into the match, Dean Malenko goes to the floor. Fun factoid, Marcus. Dean Malenko wasn't supposed to go to the floor. He just fucked up. So the match ends real fast. And it wasn't supposed to. So that's kind of a fun little like this show is just marred in issues. And I love it. Vampiro then defeats David Flair and Crowbar in a handicap match. These dudes were, I think, the tag team champions at the time, so not great. Big Vito and Giant of the Bull with Disco Inferno defeated the Harris Brothers. Oklahoma defeated Medusa for the Cruiserweight title. Medusa was the champion, and then Oklahoma, who was Ed Ferrara, wins the belt. The For the Hard Way match for the Hardcore title saw Fit Finley, Norman Smiley, and Ming fall to Brian Knobbs. In the second match of the Triple Threat Theater, Billy Kidman defeated Perry Saturn in a bunkhouse brawl match. This went according to plan. Booker T, going under the, I think, was it Booker at this point? Defeated Stevie Ray by DQ after Ahmed Johnson debuted. So, not great. Tank Abbott defeated Jerry Flynn. In the last man standing match, Buff Bagwell defeated DDP after DDP suspected that Bagwell was sleeping with his wife. Again, hilarious. The Wall with Shane Douglas defeated Billy Kidman in the last of the Triple Threat Theater match. It was a caged heat match. Shane was supposed to face off with Billy, but he couldn't due to an arm injury. Then we had Kevin Nash defeating Terry Funk in a hardcore match for the commissionership of WCW. And then in the main event, Chris Benoit defeated Sid Vicious by submission to win the vacant the vacant WCW World Heavyweight title with Arn Anderson as a special guest referee. They ended up having a thing after the pay-per-view where Arn's like, I saw Sid's, I think it was his foot underneath the rope, and so Benoit doesn't win, and the belt is still held up, and then eventually Sid Vicious ends up winning it anyway. So it was all dumb. It was the end of Benoit, Malenko, Guerrero, and Saturn in the WCW. But fun factoid, Conan and Shane Douglas were supposed to go with them to the WWE, but the WWE didn't want Conan and Douglas, so they had to go back to WCW in a little bit of a bit of fuckery, if you will. So this is definitely one of my favorite all-time shit shows for all the reasons listed. Marcus, what's your next one?
Next one's going back all the way to Machine in 2004, Great American Bash. It's a cavalcade of names that really felt like they were in the company for Hot Cup of Coffee. This was back when John Cena was, fresh on the scene as the U.S. champion with his custom spinner belt. Defeated Booker T, Rene Dupree, and RVD in a fatal four-way to retain. You had Luther Reigns.
The icon.
The icon, Luther Reigns, with the legend Kurt Angle defeated Charlie Haas with then I'm trying to see, was they dating then or she was just a valet? Jackie Gator?
Yep.
Right now. That was the thing. Longest match of the show ended up being Rey Mysterio versus Chavo, probably the best match of the night. Kenzo Suzuki, a guy that's on Dead Reckoning 2 on my GameCube, with his wife Hiroko, defeated Mr. Assman himself, Billy Gunn, who can now be found scissoring other grown men with his fingers on an AEW now. You had Sable facing off her longtime rival Tori Wilson, and what I'm sure was a technical classic.
Despite what you might think, there was in fact no scissoring in that match.
Hey. There were lines. There were lines that weren't crossed.
Which obviously is why the event's on the show, because
exactly.
Had they crossed those lines, it would have been so much better.
Everybody's favorite hardcore dad and hardcore Holly took an L to Mordecai.
Future Kevin Thorne.
Then you get to probably the most memorable match of the show. because it was the match that saw the legendary beloved Hall of Famer Eddie Guerrero lose his WWE Championship to a rising villain in John Bradshaw Layfield.
This was actually a dope match.
Yeah,
Eddie
yeah,
got
man.
busted open so bad they couldn't stop him from bleeding.
Yeah,
I forget what he got hit, but the wound was so bad that he was gushing blood at an alarming rate. So like, it adds to the match. It really does.
yeah. And then they ended it also going with the Phenom who defeated the Dudley Boys, who apparently were with Paul Heyman at the time in a handicap concrete crip match. Um, which you just kind of got to take on face value as the Undertaker is associated with the Undertaker, so you just kind of go with it. And it's memorable, like I said, is the Mysterio Chavo match was in terms of technicality, and then obviously the most memorable match being John and Eddie. Ultimately, probably the best thing about this show was them using, and all due respect, them using Tori Wilson as promotional material for the posters.
Mm-hmm.
That was about it. That was about it. I appreciated the concept of the show and the all Americanness of it all, but this was definitely one of their worst shows.
I think that was also the first Great American Bash since WCW. I
Yeah,
think.
I think. Uh, yeah, because the other one was in 2000. Yeah, you're right. Last one was in 2000.
Speaking of WCW, we're back there for Super Brawl. This was the next month after Sold Out. We are full on in the post Benoit Radicals era of WCW. This is when I think WCW, I would say May of '99 was the last great year, or the last great month of wrestling for the company. February of 2000 got close to getting back to good. This was the last time WCW was close to good. I'm not saying it was good. I'm saying it was close to good. The card goes as follows. The artist formerly known as Prince Iakea defeated Lash LaRue for the vacant Cruiserweight Championship. Lash should have won this match. I'm just saying that now. Brian Knobbs defeated Bam Bam Bigelow for the hardcore title. In a great match, 3 count defeated Norman Smiley in a handicap match. In a not so great match, The Wall defeated the Demon in a singles match. Tank Abbott defeated Big Al in a leather jacket on a pole match. At the end of the match, Tank Abbott pulls out a knife and holds it to Big Al's throat. Cameras quickly cut away and no one says anything because Tank Abbott wasn't supposed to do that. Big T, known as Ahmed Johnson, with Stevie Ray and Jay Biggs, takes on Booker. The T no longer belongs to Booker. It belongs to Big T now. The winner gets the ownership of the Harlem Heat franchise. Stevie Ray looks terrible. Not Stevie Ray. Big T looks terrible in this because apparently, when Ahmed Johnson ballooned past 330 pounds, he couldn't move. I'm shocked. And he blew up real fast. I'm shocked. In a match that really didn't deserve to be as good as it was, Billy Kidman defeated Vampiro in a singles match. Then we had the Mamalukes, the tag team champions, defeated David Flair and Crowbar to retain the belts. And then in the 3-pack main event, first one up, we had Ric Flair defeating Terry Funk in a Texas Death Match. This match was the best match on the card. Shouldn't have been, and it wasn't even in a situation where it was bad because it was, or it was good because it was so bad. This was genuinely a good match. It's not great. It's not going to be on any man's final highlight reels, but it's decent. And that's like shocking at this point. We then had Hulk Hogan defeating the Total Package Lex Luger, I was about to call him Lex Luthor, with Elizabeth. This was during the Total Package's stint of breaking arms. And out comes Sting to make the save, marking his return for the first time since, I want to say, November? December? I think it was December. So he took a 2-month hiatus. Main event was Scott Hall and Jeff Jarrett. Scott Hall versus Jeff Jarrett versus Sid Vicious for the World Heavyweight title. I don't know why this match only went 7 minutes, but it did. So there's that. Overall, this was a really bad show, but it's so bad it's good. And there are some moments like the Billy Kidman Vampiro match and the Ric Flair Terry Funk match that are like, all right, there's something here. But of course, we would get one more shot at this Kevin Sullivan regime in March with Uncensored, which is next on my list. And then we'd get back to Vince Russo, and hot damn. Marcus, what's your next event?
Man, I'm gonna kick it. I'm gonna take it to your honorable mention, man. That December to December 2006. Ugh.
So much potential.
ECW, we were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. I tuned in every Wednesday or Friday night?
Tuesday.
One of them nights. There it is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I missed up all them nights. I had to keep up with TNA. But yeah, I tuned in every Tuesday, man, on Sci-Fi. I think they was on USA first, and then they moved to Sci-Fi.
Yeah, they were on Sci-Fi first.
Yeah.
They made their debut because they had the zombie. Because Sci-Fi wanted them to have supernatural elements, so they gave them the zombie.
And then they kept the Kelly thing going. Yeah, this was just not a good show. Like I said, I think people didn't give this version of ECW enough credit for like just how deep the roster was at one point with some actual quality talent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this show, I probably might go back and look at that Hardys and Eminem match just to see what was up back then. Balls Mahoney, a Strikers rule match between Matt Striker and Balls Mahoney, I'm sure was a must see.
Matt Classic.
Our boy Elijah Burke, aka the Pope, with Sylvester Terkay, defeated the FBI, Little Guido, and Tommy Mama Luke with Trinity. Talk about names you haven't heard in years. Davari with the Great Khali defeated Tommy Dreamer. Ariel and Kevin Thorne, a unique combination to say the least, defeated, speak of the devil, Kelly and Mike Knox. And who's going to end up on Jerry Springer's first match, I would imagine.
That match had four of my best friends.
Then you had this was prime Kirby, man. Prime Blurby. Defeated Big Show. This was the OG Lashley, man. Defeated Big Show with Heyman, Test, Rob Van Dam, Hardcore Holly, and the now infamous CM Punk in a Extreme Rules Elimination Chamber match for the ECW World Championship. Yeah, this was again one of the worst shows, but I mean 2 matches. Like I said, a tag match between the Hardys and Eminem, and obviously this Elimination Chamber match where, Lashley was definitely determined to not only get over as champion, but, stamp himself as one of the best in the company. So, yeah, this was but like I said, this was not good. This was not good. Wow, he must have beat Show. Yeah, he took the belt off Show.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. That's probably the best takeaway of the thing, because I'm pretty sure this was, of course, during the time where the Show was still out of shape. So yeah.
Yeah, Show was pushing 500 pounds at least.
Yeah.
And this was also the last month that Joey Mercury's face wasn't destroyed.
Oh yes, this was that match.
No, that match came at Armageddon 2006.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So my next one is last of the 2000s WCW, Uncensored 2000. The Artist defeated Psychosis to retain the Cruiser's title. Norman Smiley and the Demon defeated Lane and Rave, which is Lightning Lane and Lodi. Then we had Bam Bam Bigelow defeating The Wall by DQ. Brian Knobbs defeating 3 Count for the Hardcore title. 3 Count collectively were the champions. Billy Kidman and Booker T defeated Harlem Heat 2000. Vampiro defeated Fit Finlay. The Harris Brothers defeated the Mamalukes to win the tag team titles. Dustin Rhodes, the last 4 matches were pretty solid. Dustin Rhodes defeated Terry Funk in a bull rope match. Sting defeated the total package in a lumberjack match. All the lumberjacks were people that Luger had put a cast on by breaking their arms, so that was pretty funny. And Doug Dillinger randomly gets knocked out by Tank Abbott in this match for no reason. So that's hilarious. Sid Vicious defeated Jeff Jarrett to retain the World Heavyweight title, and in the main event, Hulk Hogan defeated Ric Flair in not even close to being their last match, but in the best name match they'll ever have. Marcus Hogan defeated Flair in a Yapapa Indian strap match.
Don't even want to know what that consists of.
The promo for this, where he's like talking about the Yapapa Indian strap match, is one of the best things Hulk Hogan has ever done, unironically. Or ironically. I think ironically is a better fit. But yeah, it's terrible and it's hilarious and I love it. Oh, it's so good, but it's so bad. Marcus, we got 3 more left for you. What's your next one up?
3 more, 2 more.
You have 3. I have 2.
Okay.
That went first. If you only have 2, that's fine.
Yeah, I think I had 2 because I had to knock out 2 when I had came back. Back to back. Yeah, like I said before when I kicked it off, WWE's going to get cooked on this list, and rightfully so. These were some really bad shows. But I got to finish off going to my beloved TNA, man. And I'm going to take it to the infamous 2011 Victory Road.
See, I thought if you were going with anyone, it was going to be from 2009 with the Victory Road match. I think it was Victory Road. With Sharmell and what's-her-face from Survivor.
Who?
I don't remember her name, but it was Sharmell versus some chick from Survivor, and it was a terrible match. But the whole card was kind of finicky, so I was kind of surprised you went with 2011. But 2011 also was the one with Jeff Hardy, wasn't it?
Oh, you talking about coming out with Jenna Morasca?
Yeah, Morasca. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I thought you were going with that one.
No.
All right, hit me with the 2011 then.
2011, man. This was you gonna find out why in a minute. 2011. This on paper don't look like a bad card, but it was. You had I'm pretty sure Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray did their thing in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Rosita and Serena defeated Angelina Love and Winter, which, if a long-time TNA fans know, this was probably during the time where Angelina Love earned her wrestling Emmy.
So, some color for this. Tommy Dreamer hit Bully Ray with a minion in his match, and then Winter and Angelina Love were doing their faux lesbian angle where Angelina Love was like being hypnotized into being her lesbian lover. So already we're off to a great start at this pay-per-view.
Yeah. You had the big boys go at it in the first blood match with Hernandez and Matt Morgan. Shout out to Hernandez. I think this was during the time where he was relatively had some momentum, if I'm not mistaken. I would imagine the highlight of the show came with this Ultimate X match that saw Kazarian defeat Jeremy and Max Buck when they were actually young, genuinely, and Robbie E. and Cookie.
Oh God, Cookie.
Because that was a thing. Then you had probably my favorite moment of this show. Came in the next match, which was also a highlight on a Suck show. Beer Money Incorporated versus Inc. Where Storm caught Jesse Neal with one of the sickest super kicks to the side of the head that you'll ever see. Good match. Inc. were not bad, man. They're going against a, now legendary Beer Money. It was a good 12 minutes 30 second match. Like I said, but the highlight of me of that was that super kick that Neil took with that spiked hair. Yeah. You follow that up with AJ Styles versus Matt Hardy. I'm guessing this was doing that Immortal run after.
Cold-blooded.
Jesus, fucking Matt Hardy with the braids. Jesus.
Oh, God.
Just out of shape, weirdo looking. And no, this is not the broken version, which I guess you could also call out of shape and weirdo looking. But versus AJ Styles, who at that time I guess was I said they had broken off from Fortune, had broken off from Immortal, and they was going back and forth with stuff. Thankfully, I think this was after Styles had come out of being groomed by Flair, which was a huge mistake. But yeah, that couldn't have been good.
I don't think of men when I think of Ric Flair grooming people.
Yeah. Yeah, you go down his list of stuff and it's like, wait a minute, hold up now you're going overboard. Don't Flair was not that kind of man. Yeah. Mr. Anderson, Prime Mr. Anderson versus RVD, and then a double count out, which I'm sure was fun for the crowd.
Yeah, that was all to set up Lockdown 2011.
Yeah. But ultimately, we got to come to this final match. One of the worst moments in company history featured your all-time favorite wrestler, Steve Borden, a.k.a. Sting, who decisively defeated young brother Nero in a no disqualification match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, which went all of 1 minute and 28 seconds because Jeff Hardy pulled a Jeff Hardy.
I was gonna wrestle Sting, then I got high. I was gonna swanton on his spine, then I got high.
This was all time suck moment for the company, all time suck moment for Jeff. It was embarrassing for Sting, and it ultimately soured the whole show really, because it was so bad you could not help but see exactly what it was. It was so bad it couldn't hide it. You saw the disappointment all on Sting's face. Jeff was, I want to say he was disappointed, but I think he was just high and just looking like that because he had the pain on his face. And yeah, it's very few shows that ended on much of a whimper as this does. So yeah, this was definitely a sour moment in the company's history.
Oh, but Marcus, I can top your sourness. We go from Victory Road 2011 to Halloween Havoc 1998, my last WCW show. And I'm telling you, this is one of the best worst shows of all time. So much potential, so little time. 12 matches on a 3-hour show. Jericho opens up the show by defeating Raven for the television title. Then we have like these next 4 matches didn't need to be on the card. Like all together, you could have added them to different matches and make up the time. Wrath defeated Ming. Disco Inferno defeated Juventud Guerrero. Alex Wright defeated Fit Finlay. And Saturn defeated Lodi. These are all Nitro dark matches. And they made the pay-per-view. But the rest of the card is actually pretty solid. Disco defeated Juventud because he was trying to win a cruiserweight title match. And I think this was during the time when like the storyline was like Disco was trying to like stay under 225 to compete as a cruiserweight, and Kidman ended up defeating him anyway. This was during Kidman's really great cruiserweight title run when Kidman was starting to make waves as a worker. Then we got the tag team title match where Rick Steiner and Buff Bagwell took on the Giant and Scott Steiner. This was Buff's first match back from having his neck broken. And Buff comes out as an ally to Rick, but midway through the match, Buff turns on Rick. And not only is this for the tag team titles, which Buff no longer wins after Rick wins the match, but if Rick wins the match, he gets, I think it's like 10 minutes alone with Scott, because this is the first time the two of them were facing off truly since Scott turned heel on him and joined the NWO. By the by, I think Scott Steiner's nickname was supposed to be White Lightning. So there you go on that one. Rick ends up defeating Scott Steiner. And this is when the show really curtails and goes off the rails. Uh, the next match is Scott Hall versus Kevin Nash. Hall defeats Nash by countout. Literally, it's 14 minutes of Nash beating Hall's ass because Hall's doing his "I'm drunk" angle, and Nash is just beating the shit out of him. And I remember his promo before the match was him saying, "Scott, I'm going to say the 2 words to you that piss you off like nothing else. Last call." And I'm like, damn. The first time I watched this, it wasn't in '98. I think it was in '99 or 2000. I rented it from Blockbuster. And I remember watching this in elementary school going, that's fucked up. Like, even I knew at that age that Nash shouldn't have said that shit. Like what the, like, and the whole Hall thing, like, it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to watch. Then we get Bret Hart versus Sting in, like, their first true pay-per-view encounter, and it's going fine, but Sting's rocking a goatee for some reason. He's got some issues that he needs to work out. So Bret wins by knocking him out with the baseball bat. And I'm like, God, that was so lackluster. So he retains the U.S. title by doing so. This takes us to the final 2 matches: Hollywood Hogan versus The Warrior in the rematch of a generation. By now, everyone who knows this show knows all about it. Hogan flash papered himself. The timing was off. These two dudes didn't know what they were doing. And Hogan ends up beating Warrior in one of the worst matches in wrestling history, and it's just not great. But then we get Goldberg versus DDP, which would have been fantastic had anyone watched it, because during the pay-per-view, as the two are about to walk to center ring to start grappling, the pay-per-view feed dies because they went over time. Kind of, ask yourself, like, why the fuck did you have 4 matches in the middle of that start the show that didn't need to exist? I don't know. But eventually they showed it on Nitro the next day, and now it's part of the actual regular viewing of the show if you watch it on, like, say, Peacock. Goldberg defeats DDP in arguably the best match Goldberg has ever had. And it should have been the end of the streak, not because Goldberg was done at this point, but because the finish would have made so much sense in the world, because DDP was doing his diamond cutter from out of nowhere angle. And if I remember correctly, Goldberg sets him up for a jackhammer, and DDP comes down, drops on one foot, and hits him with the diamond cutter. And, like, everyone's going mad. And Goldberg kicks out at 2, and everyone's like, fuck. And, like, that would have been the perfect ending to Goldberg's streak, because it would have made DDP as a headliner. It would have kept DDP as a face when he was a champion, and you could have gone into Starrcade with, like, a rematch, or having DDP take on whoever from the NWO, and I think that would have been just as great. But instead, we ended up getting DDP winning his first world title at Spring Stampede '99 in a bout where he turns heel, and nobody wanted it. So even the great match that was Page and Goldberg, which I think may be the only time 2 Jewish wrestlers headlined the WCW card. This was, like, a great match, but it's marred by the fact that it was the perfect opportunity to put the belt on Page, and they didn't. So even in the greatness that is this match, there's still a lot of negativity. So, like, the ultimate WCW best bad good show going, or best good bad show going. So there it is. Should have had Page win, but what are you gonna do? And I'm a Goldberg fan. Like, so that should tell you something. Marcus, you got one left?
Yeah, man. I'm gonna end this with very disappointing. So, like I said, I'm gonna end this thing with in TNA, and I'm sure my good buddy Chad has a far deeper mental bank of bad shows from this company from early years than when I started watching. In the later 2000s, this was hugely disappointing to me, because it was supposed to be a big deal, and it ended up being a big nothing burger, even as progressive as it was in terms of the collaboration. I'm finishing up with 2014's Bound for Glory.
Ooh.
All the way from Tokyo, Japan, and Korakuen Hall.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Tagline was TNA invades the land of the rising sun. And if this was supposed to be an invasion, maybe they need to go back and, look up on WWE Network and take some lessons. The only thing that even remotely got some build on this show was the final match, which I'll get to. You kick it off with Minoru Tanaka versus Manic in who beat the young lad by submission. EC3 defeated Ryota Hama. MVP, who is not necessarily a stranger to Japan, defeated Kazuma Sakamoto. We had a very interesting three-way dance situation with Samoa Joe as the X-Division champion at the time versus Kaz Hayashi and Low Key in a like I said, it was a three-way dance. He retained, and I'm sure which was an entertaining affair. You had Novus and Jiro Kuroshio versus Yusuke Katama. Beat Andy Wu and El Hijo de Pantera. Team 3D defeated Abyss and Tommy Dreamer in a hardcore match. Sure, that was fun. Havoc beat Velvet Sky, which I'm sure she struggled. And what I'm sure was a technical classic.
Yeah,
another.
That match really sucked.
And to you gonna follow that up, like I said, with the only thing on the show that had any real build. This show didn't feature it featured no the NWA Championship or the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So yeah, like I said, ultimately didn't really feel like it had any impact, pun intended, by the time the show was done. But the highlight of the crossover was the fact that they got a chance to get Great Muta in the ring with, who was ultimately a Hall of Fame legend, with another Hall of Famer in Tajiri, to take on one of the most historic tag teams or factions in the company's history, in the Revolution, which was comprised of the Great Sonata, who was very much embroiled in identity crisis at the time, and a cultish leader in James Storm.
Watch out for the trains.
Yeah, this had storyline significance because obviously anybody that knows that Sonata came into TNA coming off of being trained by Muta, and he was discouraged and ended up getting to some very interesting point with his whole Great Sonata gimmick, to which he ended up being able to come back and face off with his longtime mentor. Ultimately to no avail, because of course you're not going to go to Japan and have Great Muta lose. But yeah, 14 minutes worth of a match is probably the one thing you go back and check out. But like I said, ultimately by the time the show was done, this is supposed to be TNA Impact's biggest show of the year, and it felt like an absolute afterthought, nothing burger that a lot of people probably even wouldn't remember if I hadn't put it on this list.
So this was also interesting because a lot of people thought that Wrestle 1 was going to end up being the next Pro Wrestling Noah, because guys like Sonata and what was his other name? Kanoa? That's not right. They were two of the best. Kai, that's his name, Kai. They were two of the best young guys on All Japan's roster, and Muta, who was with All Japan at the time, got a bunch of guys to form Wrestle 1 out of All Japan, which is literally how Noah started. And the fact that by 2014, this was the best they could do with Wrestle 1 kind of gives you an idea on how bad Wrestle 1 was. Although Wrestle 1 goes down as one of the dopest names in the history of wrestling for a wrestling promotion. Marcus, I have one more show. It's AEW. Oh, that was a Freudian slip. It's AWE Night of the Legends. We're going to skip the dark matches. No DQ match. Terry Funk versus Tommy Dreamer. Dreamer gets the win. This is 2011. Funk's still going. OVW star Jamin Olivencia, an eventual Impact star, shows up and defeats Sanjay Dutt. I think this is Perry Saturn's first match in almost a decade. He defeats C.W. Anderson. Jim Duggan's on the card. He defeats Muhammad Akbar in a typical Jim Duggan USA boo foreign guy match. Alex Silva defeats Finlay in a really long-ass match. Fun factoid, Alex Silva was backed by Tammy Sitch. Yup. Short
I love
sleeves.
that.
What's that?
I say you gotta love that endorsement.
Yup. Short sleeve Samson defeats Abu Shango. This was a minis match. Then we had, it went all of 30 seconds, if that. DDP and Kevin Nash went to a no contest with the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. I think the reason why this happened was because DDP was suffering an injury and couldn't go. So the new main event ended up being Ricky Morton versus Kevin Nash with Ronnie Garvin as a special guest referee in a no DQ match. This match was not great, but considering Nash was either 50 or pushing 50, and Ricky Morton, I think, was 102, it went about as well as can be. It was one of the biggest indie shows of all time, and it attracted well over 2,000 people to the Augusta Expo Center. It was a pay-per-view event as well with Chris Cruz and Larry Zbyszko as commentators. So, this was a big deal, and maybe it shouldn't have been. So this is one of those shows that really was a progenitor for what wrestling would end up becoming. And I think it's a unique little snapshot in history. And seeing Alex Silva and Jamie Olivencia, guys who would pop up in TNA eventually on this card, was pretty dope. And, of course, Tommy Dreamer versus Terry Funk somehow was the best match on the card. Although Perry Saturn did look pretty good considering he hadn't wrestled in God knows how long. And this was probably the last time that Perry Saturn was, healthy, because apparently he's suffering now from, what is it, CTE or maybe Alzheimer's. So it's kind of one of those last bastion of several guys. So if you're interested, I would check it out. But otherwise, it is what it is, for lack of a better word. Marcus, we got to figure out a theme for next week, but we can figure that off air. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we head off?
No, that was pretty much it. Like I said, we came off of a very interesting wrestling weekend. Drama aside, it's pretty sure it was something for everybody on all three of those shows. Wasn't a complete weekend of sucking like Chad kicked off tonight, talking about New Japan was, I guess, being touted to be a hell of a show.
Apparently.
So you get a chance, which isn't really, not news coming out of New Japan, like, oh, they finally got buzz. No. So go check that out, man. We always say Rossmore Wrestling, and you got enough actual wrestling and wrestling effery to watch coming out of this weekend. So
Bound for Glory is 6 weeks away.
Yeah, man.
It's gonna be Josh Alexander versus Eddie Edwards. I am stoked.
Hey, man, I'm digging everything that's happening with Honor No More.
Eddie, hit the fucking treadmill, buddy. For Marcus Drain, you can find him on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChedNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at ChedSPHOTOHUT. We're on the website at RealNerdcorp.com. Twitter is NERDCRP. You can also find us on YouTube or Twitch by just kind of clicking links and shit. That's it for us. We're done. We're out of here. We're hasta luego. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance, remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.